Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Beauty Activist Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Tameka Ellington. For those of you that may not know me, I'm an educator, a fashion scholar, and a lover of all things Black culture and empowerment, as well as beauty, as you all know. Today is the final episode of season 3. So I'm so proud to say that we've gotten through 3 whole seasons. And this is the final episode of season 3. And I wanted to end season 3 on an amazing note. I've been in conversation with my next guest for a couple months now. She originally reached out to me in regards to my book tour, Black Hair in a White World, and was inquiring about me coming and being a part of her organization's events. And I love the organization's mission and what they stood for, and I wanted to learn more about it. And this particular person is coming all the way from Nova Scotia, Canada. And what's beautiful is that what I didn't know, and what I'm hoping that you will learn today, is that Nova Scotia has a strong Black population of people. And the reason why they have such a strong population of people is because some of our enslaved ancestors, when they were searching for freedom, they migrated to that location. And so that's where a lot of our that the African culture comes from in Nova Scotia. If you look at the map, Nova Scotia is like a peninsula on the far east side of Canada. It's a small location, looks pretty small on the map, but we can't really tell about how small it is, but it's a peninsula, and then it has islands around. So it's not a very when we think about Canada, oftentimes we think about Toronto or other places, but Nova Scotia, from what I understand, is a pretty big city. It's one of the largest. It's one of the largest provinces of Canada in regards to population of people. So we're going to learn a little bit more about Nova Scotia. We're going to learn about the Black beauty culture of Nova Scotia. And what I will say, and I want you to have a better understanding, that no matter where we are in the world, no matter if we are in Nova Scotia, in Europe, in Africa, in no matter where it is in the world, if there was European colonization in that particular area, no matter what kind of European, it could have been British, Scottish, Dutch, Portuguese, it could be any of those typical, when we think about our typical historic colonizing countries, any place in the world where there was colonization, there's going to be some struggle with the Black experience. And part of that struggle includes definitely our thoughts about what we think of when we think about beauty. And so today we're going to learn a little bit more about what that struggle has been like for the people living in Nova Scotia. What are some things that they're doing to overcome those struggles? How are they supporting each other? And so I'm super pumped to get into this interview. So I want to introduce you all, activists, to my honored guest, Mrs. Samantha Dixon Slawter. Welcome. It's wonderful to have you, Miss Samantha.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for actually thinking and even the knowledge that you have about our province that's great. That's amazing.
Thank you. I was, when we had the first conversation we did, and you were telling me about the beauty culture there, I was just, in awe that, first off, there was a strong Black culture there. Because when we typically think about Nova Scotia, that's not the first thing we think about. And so the fact that there is a strong Black culture there of people, and the fact that you all are doing the work to try to help support each other in regards to Black beauty culture, because there's going to be struggle. Any place in the world where there was colonization, there's going to be some beauty struggle, some Black culture struggle. So what you all are doing is of a big interest to me.
Well, we can agree with that, because we know that even though I'm Canadian and you're American,
yes,
our histories run parallel pretty much.
Yes.
Although we're always usually the ones catching up. Okay. So it's interesting to me, and it's very humbling that you know so much about our history here.
No, thank you.
Nova Scotia is one of the last stops for the Underground Railroad.
Is that right?
Right.
Wow. 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 So you know what? I'm looking forward to learning. I truly believe that you can never know enough about the world, and anybody that wants to be successful should always be willing to listen and learn. And that's what I'm willing to do. I want to learn as much as I can about what you all do there, what it's like there for you, because I'm sure there's a lot of the challenges that we face here in the United States, I'm sure are some of the same challenges that you all face. And
That's
so
right.
I'm really interested to find out, what it's like for you all there in Nova Scotia. But I'm pumped. We've been talking about this for some time now, and we've been in conversation now for several months. And I want to just thank you for even reaching out to me. So I think you reached out to me on Facebook. That's how we got connected initially, right? Is that right? Or LinkedIn? I can't remember.
Facebook or LinkedIn, yes. Either.
Yes. Yes, yeah. So I'm still on tour with Black Hair in a White World, and it's been an amazing tour. So, if all the stars, align, then I'll, eventually get a chance to come to Nova Scotia too. But we're gonna jump right on into the questions, and I want to learn a little bit more about you, how you grew up, and what. Oh, you got it! Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. I want to know a little bit more about you and what inspired you to want to be a part of the beauty industry.
Well, I'm going to say that God chose me, because I actually wanted to be an accountant. In high school, I knew I was good at accounting, and I wanted to be an accountant. So I think God chose me for this mission. It's been a 30-year run, though, because
Wow.
It's been a 30-year fight. I'm actually one of the first people to actually. Now, I was born here. I was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but I was raised in the Prestons. So I was raised in North Preston, and I now live in East Preston. So my parents are Samuel and Viola Dixon, but my grandparents also had a hand. My grandmothers had a hand in my raising. My grandmother on my mother's side is Lena Downey, and my grandmother on my father's side is Ethel Dixon, and they both had a hand in my raising.
And that's how they say, in the motherland, on the continent, we often say that it takes a village to raise a child.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, that's good raising, when you can say that you've been raised by all of those people, because they've had all of them have had an amazing impact on your life, and you are very blessed to have been able to have those people in your life, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad owned a farm, but he also worked a job. So his business supplemented his income. My mother had her own business too, which supplemented our family's income. My dad worked us into middle class by having a job and owning a business. So my cousin and I always say that we come from enterprise, because most of our families, like every second person, had a business.
Wow.
To supplement their income.
Nice.
My mother did here in the community, but also my mom's siblings and her used to actually have hair parties, youth in their community. Now that was way before I was even probably thought of. And so that wasn't yesterday. So I come by my vocation honor. It was passed down to me. My uncle actually owned one of the longest running Black beauty culture hair business in Nova Scotia.
Wow.
And for about 40 years. And who knows, he might come back strong again.
What kind of company was it?
It was actually called Soul Clippers.
So
really? Yes. And I believe that he was actually influenced by Soul Scissors.
I know. So he was a barber.
he was a barber as well as a hairdresser. He was
Oh,
both.
wow.
So, and my aunt Mona used to work for him. She actually inspired me as well. She was my inspiration really to become a licensed hairdresser. But working at my uncle's salon as a receptionist, bookkeeper, out there in the 1980s. And he was actually working, he worked hard, like he worked, really. So I felt that it was necessary for me to actually maybe come alongside and get. So he actually sent me to hairdressing school where I started at hairdressing school, but at hairdressing school there was no black hair. So I actually quit dressing school, and but before I quit, I found out that we could train in salon at that time. So this is the 1980s. So I actually went and explained that to him, and he said, "Okay, well, let's do it." So my aunt was one of the only master hairstylists here, so she had to sign for my hours. So back then, you had to be training for 1,200 hours before you could go to provincials. So that's how I became a hairdresser.
Wow. And I'm sure you know that even like nowadays the curriculum still does not include natural hair, natural black textured hair.
Well, it doesn't even include like a lot of the chemical services either on black hair.
Right.
So either
Right.
or. So really, the revolution continues.
Yeah.
It's the revolution.
Did you all learn out of a book, the Milady
That's right.
cosmetology?
We're still using it.
Oh my gosh, you guys learned out of the Milady book too?
It's universal. Like that's the book. That's the book.
That's crazy that one book has had such a monopolization on the whole beauty industry.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, wow, wow. But
because it also has it has a home on the black beauty culture as well, because it also, well, that's the one we use now to train people in black beauty culture as well.
Wow.
But actually, let me show you. And I think we're running ahead of ourselves too, but
okay, yeah, please.
One of the things that I will mention though too is that one of the reasons too that I've actually been there was a fire put in my soul for the black beauty culture history and heritage was because I actually did the hair of one of Viola Desmond's students. So Viola Desmond is our first black beauty culture activist. So she is the person on the money here. She's on the $10 bill. I don't know if you can see that.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Wow.
So she's the black hairdresser on the money. And for me, this means beauty, equity, equality, and empowerment. So yeah.
So she's a black woman and she's on the dollar bill in your country?
She's on the $10 bill. That happened in 2000 and I believe 2000.
I'm sorry, you said 2000 when?
It was 2018, 19.
Wow.
I believe.
Wow.
It's been a little while.
Is she the only black person on you guys' money?
She's the only woman other than the queen on the money.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And we still hear
there's another woman on the money, but she's on there with 3 other men. But she's the only one on the money by herself.
That's a beautiful thing. In the United States, we still don't have a woman on our dollar bills. They were talking about putting Harriet Tubman, I think, on the $20 bill. Mm-hmm. And it kept getting, funneled through, and they weren't doing it. I honestly don't know if it's going to happen, anytime in my lifetime. Maybe in my children's lifetime it might happen, but they've been talking about wanting to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. I believe that's what it was, the $20 bill, but they're not ready yet.
Well, I pray to God it happens soon.
I hope so too. And the fact, I mean, that's very impressive to see that you all have your own money with a black woman on the dollar bill. I had to go all the way to Africa to find a black person on a dollar bill. And I made sure I brought some of those dollar bills back to my kids when I came home. And that was the first thing they said was they were like, well, mommy, are these black people on these dollar bills? I said, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So the fact that you guys have that is amazing.
Mhm. There is a black woman, I think, on the Jamaican dollar bill.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think her name is Nanny.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow. So many people don't know about the history of enslaved people arriving and settling in Nova Scotia. Can you give us a little bit of history about our ancestors that came there? And you know, you were saying that the that Nova Scotia was one of the last stops of the Underground Railroad.
So we had an influx of black people a few times because there were people coming and there were already enslaved people here as well. Because a lot of the landowners had to have someone to help them build their estates,
Wow.
keep their estates. But we in Nova Scotia had I guess we had upgrade rather than being enslaved. We were called servants.
Mm.
So anyway, so actually, let me read something to you
Yeah, please.
from it was a documentary study of the establishment of Negroes in Nova Scotia between and actually it's now we came here before the War of 1812. That's why I said our histories run parallel in the sense that there was an influx of black people that came um, like before and after the War of Independence, the United States War of Independence, but then there was also the War of 1812, and then there were the refugee slave that came, or enslaved person that came after um, those wars to escape slavery. So,
Wow.
and people were promised, like we were actually promised or invited here. We were actually invited here to Nova Scotia or to Canada. But let me read this. So it talks about the refugees of the War of 1812 as well. And I don't know if you know about the War of 1812. That was
Mm-mm.
against. That was after the War of Independence, but it was against the British and the United States. At this,
Okay.
almost like pretty much almost like a Canadian U.S. war. Uh,
Okay.
it was the last um, vestiges of slavery in Nova Scotia had therefore received their quietus before the next large group of Negroes arrived in Nova Scotia during and immediately after the War of 1812. During that struggle, as had similarly happened in the American Revolution War, many enslaved struck a blow for freedom by seeking refuge in in the British lines or by fleeing to the British warships. Um, I'm just going to stop here because one of my great 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 grandparents actually arrived here on one of those ships.
Wow.
Mhm. In the former struggle, they were encouraged to this end by proclamation issued from time to time offering freedom to Negroes who should take refuge within the British lines. And during the War of 1812, a proclamation of Vice Admiral uh, Cochrane produced a like effect. Other Negroes were carried off by force for to deprive the enemy, meaning the Americans, um, of their services, of their enslaved, was a means of weakening enemy resistance and therefore a desired objective. One
Okay.
result.
Pause right there. What you just said was incredible. So, based on what you just said, I'm just going to reiterate what I think you said. You were saying that the British,
Mhm.
in order to weaken the American um, adversary, they stole enslaved people to weaken the American people so that they can win the war.
Mhm.
Wow, that's deep. So, wow.
One result was that about 2,000 Negroes arrived in Nova Scotia between 1813 and 1816. So, but you also need to realize that there were people that were coming here from the Caribbean as well. And one of
Mm-hmm.
my grandparents who actually found their way here from the United States was actually born in Africa. One of my
Wow.
great grandparents. Um, so I'll read on. It was not difficult for Negroes to escape from their former masters during this war. At that time, British naval forces occupied many bays and rivers in the United States and debarked troops who established posts along the coast, near which there was a large uh, um, slave population. In time, these troops received many Negroes as voluntary fugitives. Others were induced to leave their masters, and a number were forced by Marines and sailors to depart from those territories. A number of slaves were undoubtedly attracted by Vice Admiral Coltrane proclamation of April the 2nd, 1814. Whereas it has been presented to me that many persons now resident in the United States have impressed a desire to withdraw from therefrom with a view to entering into His Majesty's service or of being received as free settlers in some of His Majesty's colonies. This is therefore to give notice that all those who may be disposed to immigrate from the United States will, with their families, be received on board His Majesty's ships or vessels of war, or at the military posts that may be established upon near the coast of the United States, where they will have their choice of entering into His Majesty's sea or land forces, or of being sent as free settlers to the British uh, possessions in North America or the West Indies, where they will meet with all due encouragement. Between 1851 and 1941, the Negro population in Nova Scotia nearly doubled.
Wow. Wow. Now that's history that we don't talk about here in the United States. The fact that the some of the people here, like the people that owned slaves here, their enslaved people were in many ways taken from them. During this, we don't know anything. Like I've never heard anything about this kind of history at
Mhm.
all.
Well, I'm just going to read this too because I want you to know about this because one of the Navy vessels was just named after um, a person. He was a son of a slave. His name is William Hall. So one of our
Mm.
Navy vessels is actually was just named after him this week,
Wow.
uh,
Wow.
and was the first. He was the first Canadian to win a Victoria Cross, and also a Negro branch of the Canadian Legion in Halifax is named in his honor. Uh,
Wow.
I'm actually going to name just a few other people, other than Viola Desmond and Lena Halfkenny Lucas, who are beauticians, Lillian Patterson, and my mentor was that is Verna Skinner, and she was actually one of Viola Desmond's first graduates.
Wow.
There is like we have people that have like boxers. There was Sam Langford and George Dixon, and we have an international famed singer too. These people have passed on, Portia White. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. You're a master stylist. You said that you've been in the business now for, you said, over 30 years. Is that
I've
right?
actually been in the business, yeah, for almost 5 years. Gosh,
Wow.
it's been a while. I've been
Wow.
in the business for pretty much 40 years.
Oh my gosh. So talk to us a little bit about what's happening in Black beauty culture in Nova Scotia. What is it? I mean, you're a master stylist. You've been touching people and, servicing people for, all of these years. I'm sure you've had thousands of people in your chair, and I'm sure you've heard thousands of stories. So what's
Yes. So,
happening?
for me, again, like this has been a fight. Literally, I've been fighting for my life here in Nova Scotia.
Wow.
Um, and I think the Black beauty culture here, innovative trade, was a necessary trade. It's one of the only trades that actually the it's a milestone because it's the only trade that actually looks after and cares for its main ideal is to care for Black people. There's not another trade in Nova Scotia that does that.
Mm.
And it was designated as a trade in 2022. So we're celebrating 2 years. The former CEO, Marjorie Davison, actually encouraged the people in the trade that have experience in the trade to actually take advantage of the program that was coming up and to become certified and pave the way for other apprentices so that they can enroll and participate in the training program currently under development. So the training program, although it's still under development, the people that have been working in the trade can actually become certified in when they take we have a refresher course now that they can take if they've been working in the trade for at least 2.5 years.
Wow. So what is it like in regards to everyday life for Black people in regards to beauty standards? What is it like for you all in Nova Scotia?
It's the same. It's the same everywhere. Like it's the same as in the United States. It's the same. Literally, historically, that beauty was actually literally almost ripped off of us. Like it was separated from us.
Yeah.
So really, like I said, the revolution continues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me just what Marjorie Davis said. And what she says is that an employer who would like to register an apprentice will need to be certified or have in their workforce an employee who is certified who can supervise the apprentice. She said offering a free refresher course, which they are now, and temporarily waiving the trade qualifier fee will help those who are significantly experienced in the trade to become certified journey persons. They can then supervise apprentices and pass on their knowledge and skills. It is part of Nova Scotia's efforts to make the industry more inclusive.
Wow.
And making education and services more accessible to the Black beauty Black community throughout the province. So literally for the last, like I'll say 60 years, we are pretty much like in the United States, you guys still pretty much are fighting for your civil rights.
Mm-hmm.
We are too. Our
Yeah.
civil rights have been denied, like even like through not just beauty care, through education.
Yeah.
This is one of the first revolutionary courses to actually train and educate people and certify them in Black beauty culture. In all
Wow.
of Canada.
Wow. What's really interesting to me is the fact that there's so many parallels. I mean, which I knew that there was going to be parallels, but what's interesting is that, like, man, it's so similar. It's just so similar. Here in the United States, we have been trying to, I know, particularly here in Ohio, where I'm at. I'm in the state of Ohio.
I've
So
been to Toledo.
yeah.
I've been to
Yeah.
Toledo.
Oh, okay,
My
okay.
aunt used to live in Toledo. Actually, the aunt who inspired me used to live in Toledo.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I live about maybe 2 hours from Toledo.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so here in Ohio, we're still trying to get law passed to make it so that people that are braiding hair in salons, because right now to braid hair in a salon, you don't have to have any kind of a certification, any kind of licensure. You can just open up a braid shop and just start braiding people's hair. But that's causing a lot of problems because it's causing damage. People that are open up these shops, they don't have the skills and the knowledge that they need to be able to really take care of people's hair. And so we've been trying to get legislation passed to make sure that if you are going to open up a braid shop, that you have to have some kind of licensure or certification or something, that is centered around education that you've had. So
Okay.
we still don't have, like,
But
anybody can open up a braid shop.
can I say something? I think education should become before
Right.
should come before legislation, because literally legislation laws have actually kept Black people behind.
Yeah.
Education should come first.
Wow. Wow. So my next question is, you were just talking a little bit about the Black Beauty Culture Innovator Trade and Certification Program. And it was created because, why would you say this Innovator Trade Program was created? Was specifically why? Why do you all feel why do you feel like that particular trade was necessary?
Because of lack of education. Lack of education in the beauty industry for Black hair care, for the care of Black of the Black person, of Black personhood. Because still today, a Black person can go into a salon and be told that we don't do your kind of hair.
Yeah.
So that's why I said education needs to become before legislation. And I mean, I think for us to fight for legislation, not education, I think we need to change laws. I believe that laws should be changed for us to become more, but they should become more equitable for us, and they should
Right.
become more inclusive for us. But I believe that there's a lot of education that needs to go on
Yeah.
before.
So this innovator trade certification program, is this something that anybody can get? Like, anybody that wants
You have to have right now you have to have at least 70% of the 70% of the education already. So you'd have to be working in the industry for at least 2.5 years. And
Gotcha.
a lot of Black people actually have been doing here since they were 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're actually literally what we're doing is we're moving a formal education an informal education into a formal education. That's really what we're doing.
Do you find that any non-Blacks are interested in also getting this certification so that they can learn how to service Black hair?
I believe so. Yes, I believe that it's already started. Yes, they've
Okay.
already. Some people are already doing that. Yes.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Wow. So tell us a little bit about the Black Beauty Culture Association. You're the co-founder of that association. Why was it important that you all developed that organization, and what's the mission? What all do you want to accomplish within the Black Beauty Culture Association?
Well, I mean, in unity and collectiveness, the Black Beauty Culture Association was founded in 2016, and literally, this is after working with the working within the industry, and doing what I could to make it more equitable and inclusive for us. I felt that we needed to have our own association, and many of the community, they agree with me. So we actually put out a petition, and many people signed it. And it was founded in 2016. Our vision is to infuse equality, equity, and inclusivity in the beauty industry through education, certification, and celebration. Our
Mm.
mission extends to promoting, preserving, protecting, and documenting Black beauty culture in Nova Scotia. So literally, the Black beauty culture here in Innovator Course celebrates Black beauty culture, the history, the science, and the technical study. So the skill set. So again, we're making history. We've actually the first class that we did, we made up an affirmation. The affirmation goes, we want to acknowledge God, we want to make history. Sorry, we want to acknowledge God, we want to show love, of course, show love. And then we want to make history.
Nice.
And then we want a kingdom build. So yes, so we have those as our affirmation.
That's a beautiful affirmation. You can do anything with those. I mean, any great thing can be done with glorifying, sending love to everybody, serving. And I mean, you can reach mountaintops, with that kind of an affirmation for sure. Yeah. Miss Samantha, is there anything that you would like to speak about that we haven't talked about? Any questions maybe you might have for me, or just anything you might want to share or talk about that we hadn't touched on?
Well, I think one of the things that we didn't talk about is that although we have a small population of Black people here, I think there might be about 35,000 of us. Okay. But we have 52 historic Black communities here. So one of the things that I'd like to say is we want to invite anyone to come. There's a lot of history here, a lot of history in Nova Scotia, a lot.
Wow. You said how many neighborhoods? 52?
52 throughout the province.
Wow. Wow.
Also, I should tell you about Viola Desmond's study. When Viola Desmond, the hairdresser on the money, when she wanted to study here in Nova Scotia, she couldn't. So she actually had to go to Montreal. Then she had to go to the United States.
Wow.
Her and another one of her cohorts, Lillian Patterson, actually studied in the United States. Now, I'm not sure where Lillian Patterson studied, but I did interview her when I was writing the Black Hair Story. And actually, I'm going to maybe show some of the books that we use for the Black Beauty Culture Innovator course, as well as some of the recommended readings.
Please, yeah.
One of so Viola Desmond went to Atlantic City, New Jersey, and she studied under Sarah Spencer Washington.
Okay.
So again, our histories run parallel.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I would love to be able to come and see, what that is like. In the United States, we also have Black communities. But the reason we have Black communities is because we dealt with something called redlining. Have you ever heard of redlining?
Yes, but I'm not sure what it actually.
So redlining is something that we dealt with during the Jim Crow era, where this was right after the abolishment of slavery, when people were considered quote unquote free, but they put a lot of other laws in place to really, put a damper on what we could do and the level of freedom that we could have, right? So those were the Jim Crow laws. And so during those Jim Crow laws, they created something called redlining. And so on the map, they literally took the map of different cities in the United States and drew red lines around where Black people could live and where they couldn't live.
Whoa.
And so that's how we got our neighborhoods established. So most of the time when we think about quote unquote Black neighborhoods, we don't think about prestigious neighborhoods, well-to-do neighborhoods. We think about poverty. A lot of redlining happened where Black people were forced to live in the parts of the city where it was least desirable. So a great example would be, remember when New Orleans had Hurricane Katrina, remember? So in New Orleans, the redlining that the people down there had to deal with was making sure that the Black people had to live in the lower lands of Louisiana. And they were the ones who, felt the wrath the most of the hurricane because their lands were much lower than everybody else's lands. Like, so we have Black neighborhoods, but they don't have the pride that's connected. Maybe in some of our bigger cities, like maybe in Washington, D.C., maybe in the Baltimore area, maybe if we think about Atlanta, Georgia, they may have some really nice Black neighborhoods that are prestigious, middle class, what we call middle class neighborhoods. But most of the time, when you say Black neighborhoods in the United States, you're talking about low poverty ghetto neighborhoods. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I can say is that our four parents here worked hard to keep our communities going. Now, some of them, like I could name them, like most of them, the 52, but some of them actually don't exist now.
Is that right?
But there was a lot of hard work into keeping them, the ones that survived, to keep them here still. So we have a lot of pride behind each one of those communities.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful thing. Wow.
I mean, one of our communities was actually and I'm actually going to just say the name, and people that might be online might have heard of it, and it's Africville. Africville was one of the communities that that, although the spirit lives on of Africville, it's one of the communities that no longer exists. But it exists in the spirit of the people.
Yeah.
So it's still alive. You know what? I want to actually mention my salon, because I don't actually talk about my salon a lot. I'm always promoting the Black beauty culture, but I want to talk about my salon, Styles by SD, and my mother, who actually has since passed and who helped me establish my salon.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your salon has been in existence for how long now, Miss Samantha?
Oh gosh, since '92, so about 32 years.
Okay.
So working on 33.
Wow. Wow.
We are actually holding an event in the upcoming month. It's called Black Seniors Here's Matter. We actually did a research, a pilgrimage throughout the province, we didn't get to all 52 communities, but we visited some of the communities throughout Nova Scotia. And we got information on the heritage history of Black beauty culture in Nova Scotia.
Wow.
And we're going to celebrate that at the Black beauty culture. It's actually in cooperation with the Halifax Public Library, and it's going to be a tea party. So it's going to be a tea party where we celebrate the seniors of our community. And one of the seniors who's since passed, who actually helped to promote the work, and she's one of the reasons why Viola Desmond is on the dollar bill. Her sister, Dr. Wanda Robson. So, we'll be talking about her and her husband, who actually went throughout the province promoting the work of Viola Desmond.
Wow. Wow. That's a beautiful thing. That sounds like an amazing, amazing event. Wow.
Oh, and I'm going to show off my t-shirt. It's called Be Your Own Kind of Beautiful. This is actually one of our fundraisers. And our earrings, these are our Black Power earrings. It has the colors of the Pan-African flag and also the Nova Scotian cross, the color of the Nova Scotian cross in our earrings. But I guess that's it. Like, I think I can talk about the books now.
Of course, please. Yeah.
These are the books that we use for the course of study for Black year, for for the Black Beauty Culture Hair Innovator course. One of them, which we are upgrading, is the Black Hair Story of Nova Scotia, which talks about Viola Desmond and her cohorts and the history of Black people actually transitioning from having their hair done at home into going into salons. Also, do you mind if I read a poem?
Oh, please. I would be honored if you read a poem.
By one of my clients who's since deceased. Her name is Evangeline Williams. It's called The Long Road Home. From the rich continent of Africa, our Black ancestors came, torn from their homeland, bound with ropes and chains, taken by the white man to a new land far away, never to return, not even for a day. Life as they knew it was gone forever. Family ties and friendships completely severed, chained like animals in the bottom of a ship, across the ocean came, chained and whipped, beaten and tortured, sick and in pain. They knew in their hearts that life would never be the same. Heartbroken and seasick and filled with fear, the long voyage for some was too much to bear. Many of our foreparents died along the way, their bodies thrown overboard. No one had a word to say. When they arrived in the Americas, after months at sea, they had no idea that the worst was yet to be. Paraded in public and examined from head to toe, sold to the highest bidder, and off they would go to the home of a new master to work in the fields or to nurse their babies and cook their meals. They lived in squalor on the white man's land with heads and eyes downcast at the mercy of their master's hand. They were taught a new language and given new names, but some were aggressive and couldn't be tamed. They were whipped within an inch of their lives, some even cut with hatchets and knives. They met in secret in the middle of the night, in deep woods and rivers, always keeping out of sight. They sang when they could as they worked the land. In the songs were the message, meet me tonight if you can. At the meetings they talked, prayed, and sang. Through the night, the sound of their voices rang. They sang of the freedom they would have one day and trusted in God that tomorrow would be better anyway. Their faith in God and determination to live gave them the strength to give. From freedom to slavery to free at last, our people have truly survived a group past.
Wow, that was beautiful. I have a mentor of mine. He is a professor in the Department of Pan-African Studies at the university where I used to teach. And he always would say to us, students and younger faculty, that we are the descendants of the ones who survived.
Mm-hmm.
We're the descendants of the ones who survived.
And we've made these Americas our home. Because Nova Scotia is my home.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Wow. This was a beautiful interview. Thank you so much, Miss Samantha. I really, really enjoyed this. Thank you for being the final episode for my season 3. I wanted to end with you. And so I'm, yes, please. Yeah.
So we do Milady natural hair and hair care and braiding.
Yeah.
That's one of our books. Also, we have the occupational standard for the Black Beauty Culture Hair Innovator course. We have that. Can you see that?
I have a question about the Milady book. So the braiding and natural hair Milady book, is there now in the curriculum? I was told that there's now a, what do you call, elective, that you can take an elective. It's still not required for you to graduate, but you can take an elective to learn about natural textured or Black textured hair. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I've actually, my ideal now is to actually grow the Black beauty culture industry. So I haven't actually ventured over on that side of the fence in a while.
Yeah.
So so I'm not sure. So, and then we also use the Barry Fletcher book, which is full of lots of educational information. It's one of the first complete guides to healthy hair, and it's why are Black women losing their hair. It's a great book. So I'm going to just talk about some of our recommended readings.
Yeah, sure.
Guess what one is?
Thank you, Miss Samantha.
And one of the other ones is Salon Brokenness. This one talks about, being overwhelmed, and it also is by a great support of mine. This person found out that we were doing the Black Hair Story of Nova Scotia, and she actually sent some of her books to be distributed at the event. And then this one is by Miss Hair and Humor. It's Beyond the Braids.
Wow. I got to get some of those books. Some of them look really, really good.
And Twisted.
Really good.
Twisted by Bert Ash. My Dreadlock Chronicle. The Hair Story.
Yes, absolutely. Got to have the hair story.
Science of Black Hair. And this was one of the other books that we did with the library. It was a session that we did called Being Black and Beautiful in Nova Scotia.
Nice.
And also Marcella Alice's book. It's a book on hair extensions. That's one of our recommended readings. And one of the other things that you talked about was Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you knew or read the book called Styling Jim Crow. That's also a recommended reading.
There's a book called Styling Jim Crow.
Yeah, and it talks about how literally hairstylists actually helped us Black people get through the Jim Crow era.
Wow, I got to get that book.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we know that Black beauticians actually helped fund the civil rights movement.
Yeah, they did.
Really, the history is really, I don't think it's respected the way it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I love and I respect is that the government here has allowed for the history of Black beauty culture to be placed in this study, this course of study.
Wow. There's a gentleman who I admire. He's since passed on. His name was Dr. Willie Morrow. I'm not sure if you all have heard of Dr. Willie Morrow.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
I got actually some of his newsletters.
Yes, yes.
A stash of his newsletters. Yes.
Do you have his book called 400 Years Without a Comb? Do you have that book?
You know what? I'm not sure, but I've heard of it. I speak of it on my. I'm going to just go and I'm going to run and get something.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Wow. For those of you that are still on, thank you so much for sticking on. This has been a great conversation. I'm sure you're learning a lot. I know I'm learning a lot about Black culture and in Nova Scotia and some of the things that they're dealing with. And it's so interesting to me that no matter, again, even though I know this, but just listening to it just validates everything that I'm saying when I say that no matter where we are in the world, no matter where we are, if there was colonization, we're all dealing with the same thing. And so what's that, Miss Samantha?
These are our educational boards. This is the educational board that we did for Being Black and Beautiful in Nova Scotia. This actually talks about Lena Halfkenny Lucas, who actually did the hair of what was her name? It's here somewhere. She actually did the hair of one of the first ladies. She did the hair of Miss Wilson, one of the United States first ladies of the United States back in the day. So she actually did the hair of also Hazel Dooley Scott, who was the first Black American to host a TV show, her own TV show. So she moved from Nova Scotia, from Amherst, Scotia, during the early 1900s. And she moved to the United States. So this talks about Willie Merrill.
Yes.
400 years without a comb. And it talks
Yes.
about his book. It talks about also not just his book, his documentary.
Yes.
And it talks about slavery and the fact that we were using combs, which we weren't allowed to bring when we came across
Yes,
here.
that's right. That's right. I'm gonna put in the description when I load this video on YouTube. I'm gonna put in the description and I'm gonna send the link directly to you, Miss Samantha. A couple years ago, I curated an exhibition called Textures: The History and Art of Black Hair.
Yeah.
Yes, and so many of the artifacts that we had came from Dr. Willie Morrow's
Wow.
collection. And
Wow.
so before he passed on, we had a chance to go to San Diego, California, and we met him there. And he got a chance to tell us all of these amazing stories about Black hair culture that, you know, again, I had no clue about. And one of the things that he talked about was the fact that our combs holds so much history, and it's just, and it's not just about just a comb. It's a symbol of who we are, who we once were before we became enslaved, for sure.
I've met him. I met him at a hair
Yeah.
show either in Chicago or in Atlanta. So
Yeah.
I've met
Yeah.
him. And this one talks about Viola Desmond, who founded a school. Literally, Viola Desmond changed culture here in Nova Scotia for the Black woman. And the work, like I always say, the revolution continues, the work and mission of the Black Beauty Culture Association. And this is actually us with Dr. Wanda Robinson and her husband, Joe.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So again, thanks for having.
Absolutely. This was wonderful. This was great conversation. I look forward to continuing on the conversation. I'll be sending you a link of, we did, when we did the exhibition, we also did a virtual tour. So what the link that I'll be sending you is a tour of the show, so you can actually get a chance to see it. And we talk about Dr. Willie Morrow in that
Yes.
virtual tour. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll be sure to send that to you, and I'll post it on the, description in the video. But thank you. This was a beautiful honor, Miss Samantha. It was wonderful to speak with you, and I wish you all the blessings with getting things up and rolling and continuing on the mission that you all have with the trade program, as well as with the Black Beauty Culture Association and the work that you guys are doing. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Well, bless God and bless you.
Thank
Really,
you.
seriously, this has been a great opportunity. I'm humbled that you asked. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your interest in our work.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Oh gosh, that was so good. Okay, so this is a part of the show where I give a little bit of information about what you can use to educate yourself. Well, Miss Samantha gave us all the books that I had no clue about. I cannot wait to get the book about the styling Jim Crow. I have never even heard of that book. I cannot wait to get that book. That sounds amazing. And so if you are an avid reader and you want to learn some more things, I'm going to list some of those books also too in the description, so that, and if I can find a link to where you can purchase those books, I'll also post that link for you. It's my job as an educator to always provide resources that our audience, that my audience can glean from and can further their knowledge about. And I just want to say about Miss Samantha, one of the things that I found so beautiful about her too is that she is in the process of studying to become a genealogist. She wants to help people learn more about their ancestral history. That is such a beautiful thing. So that just goes to show that she is a true person of service. She's a servant leader who wants to continue to serve Black culture. And I mean, someone like that is a person after my own heart, because I love serving Black culture. I love serving everybody, but when it comes to really getting deep into the passionate things that I'm really, really strongly passionate about, it has everything to do with what's happening in Black culture. So I truly admire her for the service that she's been doing. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Black Beauty Activist podcast, please like and subscribe. If you are looking for a speaker to come to your school, your university, come to your organization, I'm still on tour with my book, Black Hair in a White World. The tour started last July, so it's been a year now, and I've gotten a chance to go so many amazing places, and I look forward to going to so many more amazing places. So if you are looking to have a speaker to come, please connect with me. You can go on my website and go to where it says contact, and there's a little survey or questionnaire there that you can fill out, and it'll tell you all the things that I'll need to know in order to better to be able to serve you. And so if you are also in Ohio, if you're in Ohio and you want to sign the Crown Act petition, because we're still trying to get the Crown Act legislation passed here in Ohio. If you want to sign that legislation, if you go on change.org and type in Ohio Crown Act, change.org, Ohio Crown Act, you can sign the petition there. We need as much support as possible because as we all know, Ohio still hasn't passed the Crown Act. Right now, the Crown Act has been passed by the Ohio House of Representatives, but it's still stuck in the Senate, which I think is so interesting because it's also federally, it passed federally in the House of Representatives, but it's also stuck in the federal Senate. So we have to try our best to get that passed. Several states have already passed the Crown Act. I would say like maybe about 22, 23 states still have not passed the Crown Act. So if Texas and Vermont can pass the Crown Act, we surely can pass the Crown Act here in Ohio. If you love the episode, please like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Leave some comments. I see there's already some beautiful comments listed there. I can't wait to get a chance to read through. I love to connect with people, and I always say at the end of every single conversation that I have here on this podcast, remember, on the other side of fear is your beautiful confidence. Peace and blessings, everybody. Thank you for watching.